Good morning, man. Please, I'm Courtroom. Johnson on behalf of Miss Molly White, who's in custody.
All right, she should be here in just a moment. Possession of the controlled substance methamphetamine as a fourth habitual felony offender based upon a jury. That trial was held on June 3rd of this year, and there are four offenses. One, for tampering with evidence. Second, for a assault resist destructive police officer. A charge of delivery of the controlled substance methamphetamine and bringing contraband into a jail. Mr. Ringster.
Yes, Your Honor. There's three different types of punishment, as this court is aware of. One were for rehabilitation. When this court goes through this criminal history, which I know this court does, I believe the court will see that there is no rehabilitation for Molly White at this point in time. In fact, she seems to think that she's above the law, and most of the times with the criminal history as is. But the second one would be protection of society as a whole, which, again, going through her criminal history, you'll see that she does have an awful lot of thefts and drug crimes. She is a drug dealer. I believe that the court sat through both of the trials, heard the testimony of Tiffany Jacobson, which I think supports the fact that she's a drug dealer. And certainly these charges, as stated, shows that she is a drug dealer. So I do believe the society needs protection from her. The biggest one is deterrence. So many times when we have drug cases and things like that, unfortunately, guidelines would say, oh, maybe just rehab, maybe a slap on the wrist, maybe a little bit of prison time. In this particular case, we're dealing with high guidelines. And I think that for deterrence purposes, she does need to be able to go away for a long time also. I think that we need to be able to set an example that if you mess with drugs, if you mess with our jail system, this is what could happen to you at this point. The guidelines are the way they are. Recommendations for 15 years. I think that Molly White has deserved at least the 15 years, if not.
Buckle up, guys, because today we're stepping inside a courtroom where a convicted woman is about to learn just how serious her future could become. After the charges are outlined, the prosecutor wastes no time arguing that rehabilitation has failed, calling her a repeat offender and a drug dealer who threatens the community. The prosecution's message is clear: nothing less than a 15-year prison sentence would serve justice.
More.
My client deserves to go to prison. I mean, we concede that, we don't argue that. The issue here is, what is a fair punishment? And the prosecution, the first statement about Miss White is that, she's a drug dealer. So was I. I sat on a college campus with a marijuana joint before marijuana was legal, smoked it, and passed it to somebody else. I delivered marijuana. That was a crime. That was delivery. I didn't make any money from that transaction. And I think courts should make a distinction between for-profit dealers that traffic narcotics into a community and make their living selling narcotics to particular people, and users who trade in narcotics for other narcotics supplies, or in this case, clean urine. Miss White did not make any money from this transaction here, but she did engage in what I will admit is one of the cardinal sins in the criminal justice system. She committed a crime while she was in jail, trying to resolve accusations of another crime. And, that is disrespectful to the court. It's disrespectful to the law. The court heard the testimony. A lot of people think that she was high, or thought that she was high or under the influence when she engaged in that behavior. Miss White sits here, today, with forced sobriety, and realizes how she has sacrificed a good part of her life to drug use, and is going to sacrifice some other good part of time in her life away from her children because of her drug use. I cannot sit here and justify anybody having 15 felony convictions. I'm not even going to get into the misdemeanors. But she's going to jail, y'all. She's going to prison. We understand. But for her level of involvement, the small amount of methamphetamine that we're talking about, I couldn't even do the math. Assuming that the prosecutor's theory was right, and she snuck an 8-ball, 3.5, ounces into, 3.5 grams into the jail. I couldn't even do the math on how many days she's going to get for. There's too many numbers behind the decimal point to do the math per number. So for an individual who is not a for-profit dealer, for an individual who that wasn't maintaining a dangerous meth house that was emitting gas into the environment, that had a fire risk, for an individual who may have been high and suffering from the effects of narcotics dependency at the time she committed the crime, I'd ask the court to sentence her to 9 years in the Michigan Department of Corrections. That is almost a decade. That is what you would see for violent offenders. That, I believe, takes into consideration the harm she did to herself, the harm she caused or could have caused to other people had that methamphetamine been laced with fentanyl. It takes into account, the numerous felony convictions she's had. It takes into account the fact that she did this while.
From this point, the defense pushes back against the prosecution's portrayal of the defendant. Her attorney argues there is a major difference between an organized drug trafficker and someone trapped in addiction who exchanged drugs without profit. While admitting she deserves prison, the defense insists that a 15-year sentence would be excessive and asks the judge to consider a 9-year term that better reflects her level of involvement.
Well, in custody,
I know that I've been standing in front of you for a long time in my life, and I can't justify that. I am an addict, and I understand that, and I do need help. I understand people don't think that I'm the person that I've made mistakes, and I own up to them. I don't try to take other people down with me. I don't even have excuses for that. The only thing I can ask is for, I don't even know how to say it, a chance to come out of here. And I understand prison's going to happen. Understood. I'm still a mom and I still have custody of my daughter. Yes. I know that I can't change anything. However, I can only ask for, even doing a prison sentence, that I still understand and I get help while I'm in there as well.
All right. Thank you, Ms. White. Now, you have a long criminal history. You've had 31 adult entries, and I know there's some dismissals, so clearly I don't take any dismissal into consideration, but you are a young person. You're under 40, between 35 and 40. I'm not supposed to say a woman's age in public, so I'm just going to give you a range. Molly has a relatively long criminal history, and it involves a lot of crimes of dishonesty, like theft and retail fraud, which is why I say drugs are not victimless crime. So we have issues with deceptions, but we also have issues with prior deliveries of controlled substances. Back in 2012, that there were 4 people in the car, and there was testimony that Ms. White was on the phone and needed to go someplace to either pick up or to deliver methamphetamine. Now, she didn't do it. I'm not sentencing her for that, but that's where the people have legitimacy of saying she's a drug dealer, just even in that file alone. And this is where she was the driver, and she was passing it around to people in the vehicle, and that put other people at risk because she was using as well. That's the problem of controlled substances. So it put other people at risk. As to count 1, tampering with evidence. Again, the court exercises its discretion to sentence the defendant as a 4th habitual felony offender, which increases the potential maximum up to 180 months. Therefore, the court sentences the defendant to that count to 24 to 180 months. And the defendant receives 239 days of credit in that file. As to count 2, this is the assault, resist, obstruct a police officer. Again, exercising the discretion to sentence the defendant as a 4th habitual felony offender. The court sentences the defendant to 24 to 180 months, again with 239 days of credit. The count 4 is bringing the contraband into a jail or prison. Again, I used to work at a prison. I began my legal career at the United States Disciplinary Barracks for the Department of Defense, and I know how different and restrictive and pressurizing life is inside of a jail. Pack of gum, a soda can be worth hundreds of dollars. So when you're looking at controlled substances here, this wasn't merely bringing it in. It was, she could have just flushed it down the toilet, but she didn't. Well, at least initially. All right. So the court here sentenced the defendant to 224 to 180 months. Count 3 is the delivery of methamphetamine. Again, while she may have been, in effect, passing it around, she could have just flushed it. And in each case, she was delivering it by giving it to people. And that's a crime. And it's quite clear that she is dealing methamphetamine. So here, the court sentences the defendant as follows: 180 to 240 months. 239 days of credit. You may fill out the bottom half and request the appointment of an appellate counsel. You must return it within 42 days. And I see Ms. White probably filling out the forms right now, which I don't blame her. That happens all the time. Anything else, Mr. Blazing?
No, thanks, Your Honor.
Mr. Ringstrom?
No, Your Honor.
And Mr. Johnson?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Molly, I do really sincerely wish you good luck. You're always nice generally here in the court. Again, good people make bad decisions, and when it involves controlled substances, it's really hard. All right, thank you. We're adjourned.
As the courtroom falls quiet, Molly White personally admits she cannot justify her criminal past and asks only for a chance to rebuild her life someday, especially for the sake of her daughter. The judge acknowledges her words but points to her lengthy criminal history before explaining why a significant prison sentence is necessary. One by one, the punishments are announced, bringing the hearing to its emotional conclusion. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next video.